Darkwood is a very scary top-down perspective horror survival game. Now usually in survival games, you think of the basics like resource management and not making too much noise, but what if I did a challenge that turns Darkwood into an action game? Except not really, because the game is still terrifying and hard, unlike Resident Evil 5 and 6, but at least you feel like a badass when you do eventually die. Again, also not really. So after moving some nearby furniture and taking some nearby shrooms, I head out in search of basic resources like planks, nails, etc. I then took some bread from the neighbors without their permission, and that triggered their dog to go full FU mode. Since I didn't have a gun, I couldn't go American on it, so I decided to run. Now, adventuring was going fine up until the point where I found a man who was in quarantine for a bit too long, I think. At least he had one friend, which is more than I have. After threatening the locals with my bandages, I head home to cry myself to sleep, because I feel as if without a gun in my life has no meaning. For what true-blooded American doesn't have a gun in their basement, or in their attic, or on them at all times? I found some what I assumed to either be corn or weed, and I decided that I should take some of it either way, but since the sky was orange, that freaked me the fuck out, so I weigh the options of weed or live, and I go with live. Now, since I'm a normal person, I go through the window to enter my house and decide that sleeping is overrated, so I instead go with the option of stand in the corner while admiring my pills. Now, other than a couple dogs walking around my window and probably one of my dead ancestors opening the door, the night wasn't too eventful. After being blinded from random text, I meet the Wolfman, which is basically a gun dealer that didn't sell guns. Now, since he had all the resources I would need for the gun of my dreams, you'd expect me to sell my soul to him, but his prices were almost as high as the Wolfman probably was, so I decided to say fuck you, and so I went to find my own parts. I went back to the corn/weed field, sadly realizing it was actually something other than corn or weed, and stole some gas from the nearby tractor out of rage. After intentionally not falling into the bear trap, I looked at the wall for a second and proceed to loot the cabin. The looting of course happens after I run into a different bear trap. After hearing some barking, I go to see if there are any friendly dogs that don't eat human flesh, but only one part comes true. When I see a man walk around with posture equal to my real life posture, I go to see if he's friendly, but he ends up throwing a rock at me. The similarities are uncanny. I found a house right after that encounter and totally didn't try to break into it first thing. That's when I hear the same words I heard downstairs when I was 12. Now, since I was reminded of why my life ended up in this moment, I decided to fill up the kid-friendly juice meter and give myself better vision because of how many carrots were in the juice. After taking the juice, I felt like pissing off some random dogs and realizing that one of the dogs were actually a humanoid wolf. Since I was so under the effect of the juice, I thought it was a good idea to try and steal from dogs. I got next to nothing out of that except for some bite marks in my ankle, which is all anyone wants in life, right? At this point, the first area had nothing else to show me, so I went to prepare for moving out tomorrow. Now, to actually talk about the challenge of the video, while combat is very strict at the moment, I will have plenty of resources because I don't have to make much healing later, because I will usually be at long range. And I don't have to invest anything into melee weapons, saving a lot of boards for board with nails, and the shovel for reputation. The sky was orange again, so I got freaked the F out again, so therefore went home to not have to worry about the orange. Now, since I had a feeling that the neighbors heard that I was moving out tomorrow, and I've seen what they've done to people who have tried to move out, I boarded up my doors and windows. And there I was, back in the safety of that specific corner. I heard some whispering right after that, then proceeded to intentionally drop a flare. After being blinded by the light for a second time, I found my new best friend, the merchant. While I didn't instantly know it, the merchant became one of the most vital parts of this challenge later on. After I met with a few people who were actually sane, I felt more than inspired to start moving to a new base. On the way to the new base, I met the Wolfman to trade some new items in for a toolbox. When I found the entrance to the Silent Forest, I started thinking about how I could get past the man who lives inside without dying. This man almost had a house as dirty as mine, so I thought I could start a chat with him and have everything go smoothly from there. Now technically you could say I failed the challenge here, but technically these aren't enemies, but you can call me a filthy cheater if you want. You could also call me a cheater here. Could. I tried talking about how much I think League of Legends is actually a good game, but the community is ass, but apparently he's a League of Legends player and wanted to kill me. After remembering what League of Legends players do, I went back in to steal his paper with his social security number or password for that locked door. Now, since I couldn't defend myself, that was a lot harder than usual, but at least I'm alive to insult League of Legends players, including myself. I found the Silent Forest base, which meant it was time to loot my new place I shall call home. I will say the base did look quite nice, but this kind gentleman looked even nicer and told me how alcohol brings all your stuff from one base to another. At this point I was one more toolbox away from actually being able to craft the handgun once I got the resources. After rebuilding some doors and moving some furniture in the second base, I went out to explore for the handgun parts themselves. That is, of course, after I found a mushroom man that was into shrooms a bit too much, and I said I'm not turned on by that, so he asks if I was into explosions. I was not. I then meet Piotrek, which when I started this challenge I thought would be no problem to get, and to get those sweet, sweet gun parts, but then I forgot about this. Now, in order to be able to talk to Piotrek, you need to kill the dog in the garage, but since I didn't have a gun, I was unable to harm the dog. I should clarify that I will allow bear traps in this run, but I'm not going to use them as a way of damage early game, because that seemed like cheating. But at least I got a cloth out of this, so it wasn't for nothing. Now you all know how I feel about the sky going orange at this point, but I came home hoping the neighbors from the last base didn't follow me. In case they did follow me, I boarded up all the essential parts of the base to keep intact. After that, the magical whiskey man dropped all my stuff off, so I was feeling good about tonight. Also, since I got enough blood points from Dead by Daylight to upgrade thanks to the exploded mushroom man, I decided it only made sense to choose the mushroom perk. This put me into some sort of dreaming state, which made me think about why I keep injecting myself with that stuff. After the dream, I had a new corner with its very own chair that I could hide in. That's when either the feds or the old neighbors came politely knocking on my door, and I was terrified of both of them, so I went to tell them I wasn't ill. When they barged in without my consent, I tried closing the door on them again, but it didn't work. That's when I realized it was the neighbors, and I went on a 50-minute rant about why they're a jackass. I then told him to leave, but he was very insistent on staying in for the night. This man was unrelenting, but as long as I had pills, I was fine. After telling him about it 100 times about how, for now, I'm a pacifist, he then realized the error of his ways and hid in the corner of shame. After about 3 hours, I gave him the name Jeremy the Nice Guy for how much of a pacifist he truly was. However, the shadows were nothing like Jeremy, so I threw a flare at them as a tactic to scare them away. For now, I couldn't buy any essentials off the merchant, so I decided to just get nothing but some scrap. Also, fun fact, a board of nails sells for more than the resources required to make it, so that's a decent way to get reputation. I went to explore the Silent Forest and ended up finding where all the bacon I eat on a daily basis comes from. After being insulted for not cutting my hair in a week, I went to see if I could pick up some bacon for later, but that's when I saw the most terrifying thing: human interaction. I entered what I assumed to be a house that was superior to mine for the single reason of the same 3 seconds of some random bop put on repeat. Not only did it have music that went hard, it also had my favorite food. While the silo did have the best food in the game, I did stumble upon what I will call the godsend. That tractor had weapon parts, the toolbox, and shotgun shells, all of which I needed to get this challenge up and running. By the way, here is a map of the land so far. All I needed now to achieve my American dreams were some pistol parts and a duct tape. Now, since my mind was dead set on blasting these people when I got a gun, I was kindly reminded by Jeremy that I wasn't watching where I was going. After doing a magic trick where I made my knife disappear, my audience wasn't really pleased with it and thought that trying to kill me would be more entertaining. After about an hour trying to make this man step on some shrooms, he finally gives up and I'm free to explore a bit more. I then find some sort of bug den, which I won't question, but I also find a cute dog that definitely wasn't trying to kill me. Now, since the dog was so cute, I wanted to show Jeremy and the others. Everyone didn't like my dog except for Jeremy, so I took that as the perfect opportunity to take, borrow some of their shit. And since Jeremy was so nice, he totally let me keep these handgun parts. I was one tape away from sleeping with freedom, so I decided to hunker down for the night and dream about fanfiction between the dude I'm playing as and a handgun. However, my dreaming was interrupted when who I thought Jeremy reminded me the toilets aren't boards on doors. But this wasn't Jeremy the nice guy, it was Jacob the jackass. While I did struggle, Jacob was destined to increase my death count to 1. Since I finally got a gun, I felt more than powerful to commit America for the first time this run. After removing the dog's testicles in the worst way possible, I went on to tell Piotrek that the dog left, and I was finally able to give him all my useless junk for weapon parts and the upgrade to the workbench. In the end, I decided to buy a metal pipe, a wire, and a flashlight from Piotrek. that will be the end for this video. I will try my best to release the following parts as soon as I can, and the series itself in a little over a month. But for now, I'll leave you on a cliffhanger wondering, can you beat Darkwood with only guns?